بہت شکریہ جناب شمشاد صاحب، اور میں بہت ہی آپ کا ممنون ہوں. آپ نے مجھے اپنے گورنمنٹ کالج کے تعلق والوں میں سے شمار کیا اور مجھے یاد بھی رکھا. اسی نسبت سے اب مجھے بھی یہ حق حاصل ہے کہ میں اپنے گورنمنٹ کالج والے جو دوست ہیں ان کے ساتھ خصوصی سلوک کروں. میرے بائیں جانب شوکت عمر صاحب بیٹھے ہیں اور ان کے بڑے ایک پسندیدہ نام ہم نے رکھے ہوئے تھے، وہ میں صرف اپنے تک ہی محدود رکھوں گا. بہت رہین طالب علم، بہت اچھی کامیاب زندگی گزاری. تو چونکہ میرے ساتھی بیٹھے ہیں تو اس لیے میں درخواست کروں گا کہ وہ پہلے تشریف لائیں اور اپنی گفتگو کریں.
Ambassador Shamshad, with due apology, I'll speak in the language in which the book is written, with your permission. Well, Mr. Chairman and distinguished guests, it's a very long book, it's a very comprehensive narrative, which starts with Shamshad Saab's life in India and then covers the entire period of his foreign service career. I will just pick up those issues which fall specifically within the domain of foreign policy. There are 4 or 5 major challenges which we faced during his tenure as Foreign Secretary. Big challenges. But before I address those specific challenges, there are 2 points I would like to make. I have a little difficulty with the title of the book. In fact, I have a little difference of opinion with the title of the book. It says Witness to History. When you read the book, you realize that Ambassador Shamshad was not just a witness to history, he was more than that. He was a participant in the making of history. He contributed to the making of history. And I'll quote to you specific examples where his role did play an important part in determining the course of Pakistan's diplomatic history. The second point I want to make to those who are not familiar with the functioning of the Foreign Office, that we work in a state of permanent panic. We are like a fire brigade which is on constant red alert. And there is this very, very fundamental reason for it, especially in those days when Mr. Shamshad Ahmad Khan was the Foreign Secretary. You know, at that time, the international community was grappling with 5 or 6 major global issues, like nuclear proliferation, for example, terrorism, religious extremism, human rights and democracy, environment, Afghanistan. Apart from the environment, where our imprint was very small because of our limited industrial base, we had a central role to play in all other issues. Nuclear proliferation, we were a major actor. Terrorism, Afghanistan, we were identified with them. Religious extremism, the madrasa culture. And Afghanistan, of course, we were the only country which recognized them. The 2 other countries, Saudi Arabia and the UAE, they withdrew there. So we had a finger in every major problem which the world confronted. So the result was that we were always, Mr. Shamshad, engaged in firefighting, dousing a fire here, there. And that was the operational culture of the ministry when Ambassador Shamshad assumed the mantle of leadership in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He was presented with a platter of insurmountable problems, extremely difficult problems, which he handled with great composure, exemplary leadership, teamwork, and immense dedication. We who saw that firsthand can testify to it. Now let me touch upon the 3, 4 major challenges which we faced while he was the Foreign Secretary. The first was the Indian nuclear tests of May 1998. We anticipated those tests. It was very clearly mentioned in the BJP manifesto, they'll become a declared nuclear power. But once they detonated their tests, Pakistan faced a major challenge. What to do? How do we react to those explosions? Because there was enormous pressure, as Ambassador Shamshad has pointed out in his book, enormous pressure from outside for Pakistan not to test. There were also inducements from the Americans not to test. There were divisions within Pakistan whether we should test or not. And I think the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and this nation owes a debt of gratitude to the author of this book, that he steadfastly, unreservedly, unambiguously pleaded that we must match India's nuclear explosions. Because otherwise the impression will gain ground that we don't have nuclear weapons. Our credibility will be at stake. Not only there will be a strategic imbalance, but our credibility will be at stake, which might encourage India to launch a major miscalculation. So in a nuclear theater, clarity is absolutely essential. And ultimately, I think his point of view and those who supported him, the Foreign Office supported him completely, prevailed, and we agreed, the leadership agreed, to conduct those tests, 6 of them, later in May. Now that is where I will credit Ambassador Shamshad, not only with witnessing history, but also playing a role in the making of history. Because the determination with which he pursued the need for us to match the Indian explosions, I think was an important factor in the ultimate decision that was taken. I think the second challenge which we faced during his tenure was the challenge of peace. There have been interactions, as you will see in the book, between the Pakistan Foreign Office and the Indian Foreign Office on exploring prospects of peace between the two countries since March 97, I think. But after the explosions, I think both sides realized that we just can't afford a military confrontation. It will be deadly. It will reduce this subcontinent into a smoldering wasteland of human cinders. We just can't afford that. So that gave a certain impetus to the peace process. And Ambassador Shamshad and his counterpart from India, they played a very important role in evolving what is called the composite dialogue. I think it's a very important concept which was introduced during his tenure. Because before that, India and Pakistan had a dialogue of the deaf. We'll state our positions, they will state their positions, and the matter would end there. We would say Kashmir has to be solved first. They'll say, let us look at the other issues, create a better environment, and then we can discuss Kashmir. So the composite dialogue agreed on a structure, an established structure, to address all the outstanding issues simultaneously, including a special working group on Jammu and Kashmir. And this composite structure was consecrated, was approved at the Lahore Declaration in February, sir? In February?
February.
Yeah.
1998.
98. To me, that was the crowning moment of South Asian diplomacy. It was our finest hour. It was the shining hour, the shining point of Indo-Pakistan diplomacy, in which he played a very important role. Because this whole concept of composite dialogue, the formulation of the Lahore Declaration, was agreed to between his team and the Indian team after many, many days of consultations. And then we had Vajpayee going all the way to the Pakistan monument, a BJP leader, mind you, the offspring of the RSS, which had opposed Pakistan tooth and nail, going to the Pakistan monument, pledging support for Pakistan, recognizing the existence of Pakistan, and promising to negotiate and settle disputes with Pakistan and create an atmosphere, a relationship of friendship. I think this was a major breakthrough, an act of significance which has not been fully appreciated. For a BJP leader, against the wishes of his hardliners, to take that step was a gigantic step forward. But unfortunately, the promise of the Lahore Declaration disintegrated in the heights of Kargil. I don't want to get into the military aspect of it because I'm not a military historian, nor do I want to get into how this whole thing was launched. And Ambassador Shamshad has touched upon it. It's written in the book, how the decision was taken, under which conditions the decision was taken. So I don't want to go into it. I'll just share with you the diplomatic fallout of the Kargil operation. I was at that time ambassador in Vienna, which is the headquarters of the entire nuclear infrastructure. You have the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, based there. You have the CTBT, the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, based there. A very vast nuclear community. I knew both the heads of these agencies very well, El-Bradai of Egypt and Ambassador Ahmad of Germany. During my interactions with all these people, two conclusions became inescapable. Number one, the impression was that Pakistan has misinterpreted the concept of deterrence. Deterrence means acquiring the capability of preventing an act of aggression. But by going into Kargil, Pakistan believed that perhaps a nuclear capability gives you the license to change geographical realities, which the international community found very alarming. And the second point, which is not fully appreciated here, you see, the Western civilization, whether we like it or not, has reached a level of progress which is unmatched in human history. They have brought happiness. I'm talking particularly of Europe, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, not so much in the US, where the capitalist system is totally unbridled. They have brought happiness to the doorstep of their people in terms of health facilities, education, affordable education, social security, pension benefits, old age benefits. Under no circumstances are they prepared to jeopardize their standard of living, acquired through innovation, technology, exploitation, colonialism. That's a separate story. But under no circumstances are they prepared to jeopardize their lifestyle. A nuclear conflict between India and Pakistan would have a definite impact on their standard of living. It will pollute their water sources, it will poison their food chains, it will poison the atmosphere. So any action, even small, which has the potential of spiraling out of control, is totally forbidden. That is how they looked at Kargil, that it carried the seeds, the potential of spiraling out of control and possibly ending in a nuclear exchange, which will have a direct impact on their lives. So we had to spend a lot of our diplomatic capital, a lot of effort to move out of the shadow of Kargil. And mind you, people ask, why did the West abandon India during the latest confrontation with Pakistan? Not one country in the world supported the Indian version on Pahalgam and their attack on Pakistan, not because we presented Mr. Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. These are small gestures. These are lubricants of diplomacy. Policies are not made on the basis of these gestures. They improve the rapport, the interpersonal relationship. But policy making is very different. I think India was abandoned by the entire international community because it had crossed a very dangerous red line. It had attacked with cruise missiles a declared nuclear power, which means it has taken a step which can easily spiral out of control and end in a nuclear conflict, in a nuclear exchange. That was the principal reason why nobody supported the Indian point of view. And I'm surprised even today, after getting this lesson, the Indian leadership continues to talk about the phase 2 of Operation Sindhu. They must understand that the world will never allow a conflict which can spiral into a nuclear conflagration, because that will directly impact upon their progress and their way of life. Lastly, I think I'll touch on Afghanistan, Ambassador, with your permission. It has been a permanent cross that we have had to carry, and Ambassador Shamshad has dealt with it rather extensively in his book, especially those periods, that period of 97-2000 when he was the Foreign Secretary. We were the only country which recognized the Taliban. Saudi Arabia, UAE withdrew their recognition. We had to carry the can for them at every meeting, every place, trying to defend them. And they made it more and more difficult for us to defend them because of their actions. And then on September 11, 2001, we found ourselves on the wrong side of history. The basic, as I understand, the basic principle of our foreign policy towards Afghanistan was that we must have a friendly government in Kabul so that our western frontier remains stable and secure. Now, this is a legitimate aspiration. I think it's a very sensible aspiration. But sometimes we went a bit too far. We expended a lot of our capital, spent a lot of our resources in supporting the Taliban. But the irony is that today, after having invested our diplomacy for 45 years, today we are fighting with the Taliban. There is a conflict going on between Pakistan and Afghanistan, and the Afghan foreign minister is being embraced by the Indians. It is an extreme irony. I think it sends a message which is extremely distressing from our point of view. And I hope that diplomatic scholars like Ambassador Shamshad and others would reflect on this dilemma and come up with new and innovative, creative policy measures which will stabilize our western frontier, because we simply can't afford to have two hostile borders. I think I'll stop here. In conclusion, let me just state that this book is a very valuable addition to the existing literature on Pakistan's foreign policy. And it is a must-read for those who want to get a better understanding, a deeper insight into the events and the currents, the cross-currents, the pressures, the inducements, the compulsions which shaped the strategic configurations of a particularly sensitive period in our diplomatic history, to which he was not just a witness, but also a participant. Thank you very much.